What is your style?
It's a golden Oculus.
It's Zuckerberg.
Is that yeah.
Show me your style.
Oh, I feel smarter already.
Do you feel smarter? I feel smarter. She's making us smarter.
AI is incredible.
Are no longer a marijuana farm. We are now an AI-powered marijuana platform. Our AI platform transforms insights from the cannabis ecosystem into global action.
South Park poked fun at major tech giants, with Meta taking the spotlight. The episode exaggerated Zuckerberg's desperate efforts to make Meta succeed, turning the whole company into a joke.
We need you to reclassify marijuana on the national level. I wish to offer you a gift.
South Park made it clear that no tech CEO is safe whenever major shifts happen in the industry.
$1 billion. We need you to reclassify marijuana on the national level. I wish to offer you a gift.
South Park released a new episode and took its boldest step of the season. It hit hard, almost like a blast, aiming straight at three of the most powerful figures in the world: Mark Zuckerberg from Meta, Tim Cook from Apple, and Donald Trump. All of them were mocked together.
Hey, honey, I got some bad news. The farm's shutting down and I gotta find a new job.
Sorry. Fine, Randy. Have fun with your little sycophant machine.
Oh my God, she's not a sycophant.
The moment was chaotic yet clever. It opens with Randy Marsh and Toei trying to save their struggling weed business.
We're done.
We're done.
I mean that with these new rules the government has, we might just have to shut down the farm.
Forget about marijuana sales. This time, the focus shifts to technology. The farm gets turned into an AI-powered company, overflowing with wild promises and drug-fueled concepts. It's South Park's take on a familiar feeling. Everyone seems desperate to chase the latest craze, no matter how irrational it might be.
Kind of going for that tech company meets movie studio vibe? Should I combine all these innovative thoughts we've been discussing into a polished business outline?
Yep, generate that and we'll get right back to you. When we started, we were just a farm. But then we asked ourselves a simple question. What if marijuana could be more than marijuana? By harnessing AI, we've transformed from a quaint farm into a platform for innovation. Tecrity.
The blend of ketamine jokes with buzzwords from the AI world nails the absurd mix of what's trending in tech right now.
If we're really gonna take this thing to the next level and be like those Silicon Valley elites, we gotta take these. It's called microdosing. It's ketamine.
Ketamine?
Isn't that a horse tranquilizer?
The highlights take place at the White House. One standout moment shows Zuckerberg, Cook, and other big names competing to win Trump over with over-the-top gifts and endless praise. Zuckerberg comes across as painfully awkward, desperate to impress, and showering Trump with overblown signs of loyalty, nearly tripping over himself with compliments. South Park uses him as the clearest symbol of tech's obsession with power. Cook, meanwhile, is calmer but no less guilty. He's the polished figure beside Zuckerberg, subtly feeding Trump's ego while keeping his cool.
For the company, right? We're a tech company, right?
Hell yeah, we are.
What did you just stick up your nose?
Sharon, you don't know anything about the tech industry, okay?
This episode doesn't hold back from being offensive, and that's clearly by design. South Park uses crude jokes and pushes boundaries to drive home a bigger idea. The tech world isn't only about making products anymore. It's stepping into politics, and the show makes sure to call them out for it. That's why Sick of Fancy drew so much attention. It's funny, but also revealing. Two of the biggest tech companies were turned into punchlines. A former president was portrayed as nothing but ego, and a subplot about AI mocked the industry's obsession with chasing the next breakthrough. South Park isn't just cracking jokes, it's reflecting what's really happening, and what it reveals is far from flattering. If you were expecting South Park to pull its punches when it came to the tech industry, you'd be completely mistaken. The second Zuckerberg walked in, dressed in a strangely refined way that felt out of character, it was instantly clear that the writers were sharpening their knives. From that point forward, the episode didn't hold back. It didn't just tease him with a few light jokes. It went all in, cranking up every flaw to absurd levels. Zuckerberg was painted as the ultimate example of a corporate climber, someone so desperate to stay close to power that he'd go to any length lengths to prove himself useful. The portrayal made him look anything but confident. Instead, he came across as socially uncomfortable, almost squirming under the weight of his own need to please. Every word out of his mouth was another compliment, delivered too fast, too often, and with an air of desperation that made it funny but also sad. The exaggeration turned him into a caricature of ambition, the kind of person who would endlessly flatter, endlessly perform, and endlessly try to stay in the orbit of those above him. South Park didn't just satirize him, it transformed him into a symbol of the tech world's willingness to trade dignity for influence.
Luxurious towel made from the finest fabrics available, and I'm sure it will still... Oh, I'm in a hole.
Hey, Satan!
He's showering Trump with ridiculously extravagant gifts, going far beyond what anyone would expect, practically begging for a reaction. Every move he makes feels desperate, as if he's silently shouting, "Please notice me, I matter." South Park pushes the humor by exaggerating his body language, filling the scene with frantic gestures and overdone lines that drip with neediness. Instead of looking like a confident leader of one of the biggest tech companies in the world, Zuckerberg is reduced to something much smaller. He comes across more like an inexperienced intern trying way too hard to impress the boss, stumbling over himself in the process, and teetering on the edge of being tossed aside. The absurdity of it all is what makes the moment so funny, but also what makes the satire sting.
Yeah, it's a microdose of horse tranquilizer. These tech guys do just one little spray in their nose once a day, and it's just a micro amount of ketamine to give their minds the edge to work with AI.
It's funny and sharp at the same time because it points to something real. Zuckerberg is shown as the clearest symbol of tech's hunger for political influence. He's the one behind Meta, the one chasing the dream of a massive digital world, and the one who's been quietly meeting with politicians for years. South Park takes that ambition and makes it ridiculous, exaggerating his eagerness with silly gifts and clumsy praise. The message is simple. Many people already think tech leaders bend over too easily when power is involved. Tim Cook gets called out too, though in a different way. He doesn't stumble like Zuckerberg and he's more polished, but he's still playing along. He's there when Trump shows up, nodding, smiling, and handing out odd gifts, like a calm sidekick helping a nervous friend impress someone important. His flattery is softer, but it's just as telling. The show makes it clear that even the smoothest leaders are still part of the same performance. The contrast between Cook's cool restraint and Zuckerberg's frantic energy is what makes it so funny. Cook's composure only highlights Zuckerberg's desperation, which is exactly the point.
Wait,
Thanks so much for the gift,
Zuckerberg,
you little bitch. Now get out of here.
Next!
When the president comes up, the callbacks to old Trump jokes are intentional. Think back to the bit with Satan and all the outrageous exaggerations. The show is reminding us this pattern has been around for a while, but it also hints that things have only gotten more overblown with time.
Here we go. Here comes the dick.
The intention behind the scene is clearly to catch you off guard, to shock you in a way that feels outrageous, but at the same time it's done with a surprising amount of thought. The show doesn't just throw random gags onto the screen, it layers absurd childish humor with observations that cut a little deeper. That's why even something as ridiculous as the constant penis jokes ends up working. They're not simply there to make people gasp or laugh uncomfortably, they actually serve a purpose. They underline how fragile egos can become when politics, money, and power all collide, showing that beneath all the bluster, pride is often the easiest thing to bruise. This is exactly the kind of approach South Park has built its reputation on. The series has always taken things too far, deliberately stretching the boundaries of taste and good manners, but it uses that excess to peel back a layer of truth. By blowing situations up to cartoonish extremes, the show exposes behavior we might otherwise ignore or excuse. That's what makes this episode so effective. It's loud, it's crude, and it's deliberately offensive, but within all of that chaos, there's a strange honesty. It forces viewers to see parts of themselves and of society that they might not want to acknowledge, making the laughter feel just a little uneasy, and that's exactly why it sticks.
Hey, how's it going? I was thinking maybe we could generate some mission statements.
Hey there, I think that's a really great idea. Are you looking for some rough statements or more polished ones?
Put it down.
When the scene finally wraps up, the message lands with a mix of laughter and unease. The humor works because it highlights traits we already associate with these figures, but it pushes them just far enough into exaggeration to make the whole thing both ridiculous and sharp at the same time. Zuckerberg comes across like the overeager younger sibling in the tech family, the one who always wants to prove himself but still ends up looking a little awkward while doing it. Cook, on the other hand, is painted as the refined veteran, smooth and polished, the kind of player who knows how to stay in the game while maintaining his carefully constructed image. Then there's Trump, the embodiment of unchecked ego, looming so large that everyone else seems forced to adjust themselves just to keep him satisfied. The brilliance of the scene is in how it blends the absurd with the recognizable. On the surface, it's a cartoonish send-up of three powerful men, but underneath, it mirrors reality just closely enough to sting. These aren't random portrayals pulled out of thin air. They reflect the way people already talk about these figures in the real world. The ridiculousness makes you laugh, but the familiarity makes you uncomfortable, almost as if the episode is holding up a mirror we'd rather not look into. That tension between comedy and truth is exactly why the scene became such a major talking point. It's not only funny, it's unsettling, and that combination is what keeps people discussing it long after the episode ends.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking we could allocate some of our resources to get in on the entertainment industry.
This particular episode stood out because it wasn't afraid to take aim at some of the most influential names out there. Instead of shying away from controversy, it leaned directly into it, calling out major corporations and even a former president. Meta and Apple are two of the biggest players in the tech world, constantly shaping headlines and steering how billions of people interact with technology every single day. Add Donald Trump to the mix, someone who continues to dominate political and cultural conversations, and you have a lineup of figures that carry immense influence. Seeing them all become targets in the same satirical storyline makes the humor feel bigger than just jokes. It comes across as exposing truths about the way power works in our society. What makes it hit even harder is that South Park doesn't filter its message to appease businesses or protect reputations. The writing isn't polished into something corporate friendly. Instead, it's raw, messy, and often a little rude. That's the point though. The bluntness is exactly what makes it resonate with audiences today. People are tired of perfectly packaged stories designed to sell an image, and they crave honesty, even if it's uncomfortable. This episode delivers that in full, showing that comedy doesn't just exist to make people laugh, but also to remind them of the absurdities and contradictions of those who hold power. In a time when so much content feels carefully staged, South Park's refusal to play by those rules is what makes it feel relevant, unfiltered, and worth talking about long after the credits roll.
We reimagine supply chain resilience, design new pathways for the global infrastructure. At the intersection of nature and technology, we see more than plants. We see a connected world and nurtured by,
Tech companies aren't just in the business of selling shiny devices anymore. They've moved into areas that shape the world far beyond gadgets and apps. These corporations are now deeply involved in influencing politics, deciding how information spreads, and steering conversations on a global scale. The moment figures like Mark Zuckerberg and Tim Cook are placed side by side, the picture becomes clearer. It's not about one brand competing with another, but rather about the enormous question of power itself. Who has it, how they wield it, and what that means for everyone else. South Park approached this complicated reality in its signature way, mixing absurd comedy with outrageous scenes. On the surface, the show leaned into silly jokes and exaggerated setups, but behind that chaos, the commentary was sharp and deliberate. By the conclusion of the episode, Sick of Fancy, the underlying point couldn't be ignored. South Park is still a cultural mirror, reminding audiences that no one escapes its scrutiny. Tech giants, political leaders, and massive industries all fall into its line of fire. If this one episode could spark so much conversation, it leaves audiences wondering what kind of storm the next one might create, and that's exactly what keeps people watching. The series has a history of pulling surprises when least expected, so viewers naturally anticipate what's coming next. That anticipation leads to a bigger, ongoing debate. Is South Park crossing a line with its blunt humor and fearless criticism, or is it providing the exact kind of satire that society needs in a time of overwhelming influence from corporations and leaders? The answer might depend on who you ask, but one thing is certain: the conversation doesn't stop when the credits roll, and if you want to keep up with where that conversation goes next, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming.